What did you decide to do comedy and put that into the mix?
Well, I've always had a side to me that likes to perform. And you know, I believe that all great preachers are also showmen and entertainers. Amy Semple McPherson, who founded the International Church of the Foursquare Gospel, if you recall her, was a great showman. I was a fan of Catherine Kuhlman. You remember her?
I do remember,
I
from
believe
Los
in
Angeles,
miracles.
Yes.
And I used to go down, when I lived in LA, I would stand out in front of the Shrine Auditorium with crowds of people for 3 hours to see Catherine Kuhlman.
Now you
Thrill me.
do you work in what they call a drag show?
Yeah, I work in a show bar here in Portland, Oregon called Darcel 15.
Do you do other impressions
which is similar to Finocchio's in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
They draw basically heterosexual people. It's not a gay bar. It's we draw family people that come to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and special occasions.
You just do yourself. You do impressions of other.
No, I basically do myself, but the stage caricature that I do in the cabaret is the Red Hot Mama, and I sort of emulate, not imitate, but emulate the late Sophie Tucker.
Sophie Tucker, all right.
Yes.
Do you ever go out as a man? I mean, do you ever put away the drag?
No, I don't. I have lived as a woman since 1963, and I, of course, in the stage and show business, I wear regular show business attire. But in my daytime, every day, I wear regular, basic daytime female attire.
Do you have another job, or is this full time?
Well, no, I work in the daytime as the secretary and bookkeeper for Darcel's for the nightclip. I've done that for the last 10 years.
So it's kind of a show business atmosphere. So people say, "Gee, we have a celebrity or an actress or there." All right, let me ask you this.
I want to interject, for years before I got into the show business, when I was living as a woman in the straight heterosexual life, attending the Pentecostal church where they did not know I was transsexual, but only knew me as a woman. Then I worked as a legal secretary in law firms.
Any embarrassing situations there when people don't know you're a transsexual? Or
no, not too much. It was just living as a woman just kind of came natural. It was easy. The first year or so, though, it was a little bit, adjusting, because going on coffee breaks with the women, with the secretaries, as a woman, they discuss certain personal things, amongst themselves and amongst me, because they, thought of me as a woman, see? And, whereas before, as a boy, I've never heard women talk on that personal of a level, and it seemed kind of strange at first. And, but I adjusted to that, too.
Do you have male friends now, or am I getting too personal, like romantic?
Boyfriends?
Boyfriends?
No, not right now, I don't. There's no romantic interest in my life at the present time at all.
Let me ask you something.
I have a knack for falling in love with the wrong person.
Let me ask you a question, which always seems to come into the mind of someone who's not, transsexual. Do you ever see a very pretty woman and say, "Oh, gee, I wish I were a man again. This is a lovely woman I could be attracted to"?
No, that is. I know how the answer to your question, but to put it in words is kind of hard to do.
Okay, let's get back to show
I
business.
admire women. And there are times when I see women that are attractive that I really strongly admire, and I think, and I will sometimes think with women like that, if I were heterosexual, if I were into women sexually, this particular woman I could really go for. But I am not interested in women sexually, never have been. But once in a while, I will run across a woman in my life that I admire so much that I think, if that was my sexual stance, this is the type of a woman I would be interested in.
You know the story of the two homosexuals walking down the street, and a pretty girl walks by, and one says to the other, "Gee, I wish sometimes I were a lesbian."
Oh, really?
They said that's a story that interests psychiatrists for years. Let's get away. Let's get.
That's very good. I'll have to do a sermon on that sometime.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
If this show, if we each had cue cards, mine would be very small and yours would be very big. So let me ask you a couple of questions. They said you're going to have trouble getting Sister Paula to talk, draw her out of her shell. Let's talk about show business.
Oh, I know, I'm very introverted.
So, Paul, what's the most interesting guest you've had on your show? And I ask you that because yours is an offbeat show. Ours, hopefully, Access America will be offbeat, so we're looking for the unusual. Who do you consider the most interesting offbeat guest you've had?
That I've had on this particular show? Oh, that's a good question, because I've had such a variety, of guests on the show. I've had, for example, I had Ronnie Lang, who is head of the Northwest Gender Alliance here in Portland, who is a transvestite, a heterosexual who's married to a woman, who we shared about the transvestite support groups and for wives and things like that.